All right. Well, welcome everyone to tonight's Tower Garden class. I am so excited to start this series. So this is our summer series of Tower Gardening classes to help you just grow bigger and better produce. So my name is Lene Hervey, and I'm going to be hosting along with my friend Erin May tonight. And we are both in Minnesota. And just a few housekeeping things before we get going. We'll have you just make sure to stay muted out tonight. If you're coming in late, just please mute yourself out. And if you do have questions while we're going through things, just feel free to pop them in the chat. If we happen to catch them, we'll try to answer them as we go. But we will also have a Q&A session at the end where we will open it up for questions. And that will be after we finish the recording tonight. So if you're on live, kudos to you, bonus to you. You get to be on for our Q&A. If you're on the recording, make sure you catch us for the next two live Zooms in the series so that you can get in on the Q&A at the end, because that is always such a big part of what we do. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to breeze through things rather quickly tonight because we want to provide as much information and support to you guys as we can. So like I said, my name is Lene Hervey, and I am here in Minnesota along with my friend Erin May, who is going to share just a little bit about herself here as well. But I am a gardening guru to my core. I love gardening and I'm a farm girl. So I grew up on a crop farm in southern Minnesota, and my husband and I actually ended up taking over that crop farm. And so now we farm full time. We live on a 10-acre homestead where I have gardens galore, as well as our tower gardens in my basement, where I actually keep mine indoors all year long. I have done it outdoors as well, but I like having the simplicity of a basement garden all year round in Minnesota. So I first got started with Tower Garden about 6 years ago when I actually partnered with the Juice Plus company, who really showed me the power of produce. So I was gardening and farming and doing all these things long before that, but it wasn't until I partnered with them that I really understood the power of fruits and vegetables and getting in as many as you can. So I'm just going to say, if you haven't heard anything about Juice Plus before, get with the person who invited you and learn more about that as well. But we're going to dive into Tower Garden tonight, which is the other piece of what they do to get more fruits and vegetables into your diet each and every day. You guys, when you're growing your own fresh fruits and vegetables all year long, you're going to want to eat them. You're going to crave them. And I can tell you, we have seen that time and time again when Erin and I go into schools and help kids learn how to grow their own produce. So we have seen the changes of just flooding our bodies with fruits and vegetables. That's why we're here. That's why we're trying to help as many people as we can get growing, no matter where you're at. So that's just a little bit of my background. We continue to just grow and eat as much as we can. I have a daughter who's just 7 months old, and my husband, and we loved our fresh green beans tonight. So Erin, I'm going to let you introduce yourself just briefly before we get rolling here.
Thank you, Lene. Yes, I am Erin May. I am from central Minnesota, just a small town in central Minnesota, so kind of above Lene there. So I have been growing with Tower Garden for about 8 years now. This last May, it's been 8 years, I believe. So what got me involved in wanting to grow with the Tower Garden is that's no dirt and there's no weeding, and I never had a green thumb to begin with. So I did not know anything from about gardening at all. So that's kind of what got me started, is because I had 2 young kids at the time and I wanted to do something with them. I know the importance and the value of growing your own produce, because when you're growing your own, your kids that are involved even eat more of it. So me and my husband, we are on a 20-acre farm in central Minnesota, and we also homeschool our kids. That is a new thing to us. This is our second full year of homeschooling. So we've had Tower Gardens in the schools, public school systems, but now we utilize them in our homeschool curriculum as well. So we're super excited about utilizing the Tower Gardens. As you can see, I have 2 of them outdoors right now, and I have 3 total. So I grow in the wintertime all year round, but I like bringing them out in the summertime because I will do a specific tower garden, like whole grain bean tower garden, or I will do a full, um, a full
MacBook Pro
pepper garden
speakers.
is what I'm doing this year. So I am super excited to just educate and share with you guys a little bit more on kind of the how-tos behind tower garden and how to grow certain things. So send it back to you, Lene.
Awesome, Erin. All right, well, let's dive in here then. So this is our Tower Garden class series. Just a brief here on the upcoming dates of July 26th and August 9th. So be sure to mark your calendars for 8 p.m. Central on those dates as well. Tonight, we are going to look at more of the getting started, the basics, and coming up, we're going to be looking at growing greens and herbs, peppers, tomatoes, strawberries, squash, flowers, and maybe even sprinkle in a few other things. So you'll want to come back to learn about those things as well. So like I said, tonight is session number 1. We're going to be looking at the tower garden basics, germination, and planting your tower garden. So to get rolling here, Erin, do you want to go ahead and just briefly share on the basics of getting started, starting out with setting your timer?
So this is one of my favorite parts of the tower garden because really it takes a timer and that's what's pumping your water through your tower garden. So here is the settings that you need your tower garden on. When you're outdoors, 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off. For the tab timer, inside is 15 on, 45 off. And for those that are just getting a new tower garden, they have the new digital timers. So it's already set for you. So outside has an O setting, inside has the I setting. The nice thing is it does tell you the time on the back, which is a little bit different than the tab timer. For outdoor, it's 3 minutes on and 12 minutes off. Indoor is 5 minutes on and 45 minutes off. So it is a little bit different. I never really turned this over because it's a digital timer. It just has O and I. It's super simple to just set this and walk away. So that is your timer for your pump to pump your water up through your tower garden. And that is nice that it is on a timer. Our lights are also on a timer, which is great because when you're growing indoors, yeah, we don't have the sun. So we have our lights on a timer. We do have some recommendations on that. For like a standard setting, it's 14 hours on, 10 hours off. And we got an example here. You started at 6 a.m. and off at 8 p.m. If you want a faster growth rate, you can up those hours. So it's just upping those hours to 16 on and 8 off for a maximum growth. We've learned this just recently, Lene and I, 18 hours on and 6 off. I have staggered these for all 3 of my tower gardens and have gotten to see the difference in growth by having those timers on the light set a little bit different as well. And then our next thing, Lene, I believe, are we talking minerals yet for basics as well? So here's our minerals. Our minerals is what feeds the plants and the root system. So I have our measuring cup here and I have our mineral blend A and I have our mineral blend B. So new seedlings is about a half a strength, which is 10 milliliters of each A and B per gallon of water. Your grown plants, like you can see in this tower garden behind me, they have a stronger root system so they can handle that regular strength. So 20 milliliters of both A and B per gallon of water. Indoors, you're adding every water fill. Outdoors, you're adding every other water fill. So just to touch base on your basics of your minerals and your timers.
Thank you, Erin. And just a note on all of these, as you get started growing and you work through different types of plants, you may find that you have to alter things slightly, and that's totally okay. And we're going to get into some growing guides for specific plants here later on. And you're going to notice that in some of those growing guides that there may be different recommendations. And so that's just something that you can pay attention to. But this is where we would recommend starting and working from there. So next up is getting started with your seeds. And so we're going to first talk about from seeds, and then we'll briefly touch on seedlings. So before you plant your seeds into your Rockwell cubes, you're going to want to go ahead and soak those rock wool cubes so that they're good and moist to plant your seeds into. And this is actually a question that we get often is how many seeds do I put in each rock wool cube? So Our Garden has given us some great recommendations here. For lettuce and greens, you can plant 6 to 12 seeds per cube. And I would say that's on the high end. You could even do even less than that. For herbs, up to 6 plants per or 6 seeds per cube. For your vegetables with larger seeds, only 1 to 2 seeds per cube. And that's going to be your tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and beans. And I would also add in that once those sprout, to get rid of the extras. So only have 1 plant per rock wool cube once they've sprouted. And for other seeds, you can definitely refer to your seed packets for instructions. So then once you plant your seeds in the cube, you're going to go ahead and put vermiculite on top to make sure that they stay nice and moist for germination. So not all plants or all seeds have to be started like in a tray of water. That's one option. A lot of seeds, say like green beans, squash, tomatoes, or excuse me, green beans, squash, cucumbers, you can actually place those rock wool cubes right into your tower garden and they will likely germinate. For other things, you may want to start them in a tray of water. And yes, these documents can be either the person who invited you here or on Tower Garden. So I will share a little bit of where you can find some of the later documents as we go through things here. So now for your ideal conditions, sorry, reading a chat, reading a question, and getting back to things here. So for your ideal conditions for germination, you're going to want it to be between 55 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. I would say 55 is pretty cold. I would say more 65 to 75 for those crops to germinate. And if it is cooler, you can go ahead and add a heating mat underneath your tray. Is going to be helpful. Now, if you're still really having troubles with germination, this is my like tried and true secret to getting things to germinate. And this is actually the route that I tend to go more often now because it allows you to use older seed when you're planting. So the thing with having fresh seed is always that it allows you to have a better germination rate. Well, what if your seed's getting a little bit old, but you don't want to waste it? This is a great way to do that. Germinating in a wet paper towel. So just go ahead and lay those seeds in your wet paper towel, fold it up and place it in a paper bag or in a plastic bag and just let it sit for a few days, open it back up and you'll see the seeds that have germinated and you can go ahead and transplant those right into your rock wool cube. So that is another option for germination. Now, I'm going to have Erin May go ahead and show you how to transplant seedlings into a rock wool cube before we talk about the seedlings here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share my screen so that she can show you this here.
All right. So a lot of times what I do, I don't always buy the seedlings and have them shipped to me. I will plant my own seeds into dirt. You know, a lot of times I was doing this just because I had a greenhouse and I'm doing a ground garden too. But I will show you because I have a couple different setups here. So you will take just a plain rock wool cube. This one's a dry one. So that's where typically your seeds would go. I have a wet one here. And all you would do is you would take your plant right out of the dirt. And I won't show you all the details of this, but you're going to wash off all this dirt right off this spot, or off the roots, I should say. I have one already rinsed off, so I'll show you. So this one is the root system of a pepper plant because I have the pepper tower garden right behind me. You will cut that rock wool cube open just enough where you're going to wrap that in there so the roots are down. And then you're going to take a rubber band. I always take a rubber band and wrap it around because then it's going to stay in place. And then you put that right into your net pot. A lot of times I will cut the bottom of the net pot out so I can string the roots all the way down. And then this is ready to go right into your tower garden. So you can do this with greenhouse plants. If you plant them yourself, or if you buy seedlings from the store that are in black dirt, you can use those in your your tower garden. Just wash the dirt off and get them in a Rockwell cube and place it right into the tower garden. Back to you, Lene.
Thank you, Erin. So that is how you can use seedlings and put them into your Rockwell cube. I do have a list of seedling places you can purchase seedlings from and have them shipped to you here. Again, found on Tower Garden. However, honestly, Erin and I don't really recommend ordering seedlings. You typically tend to have more disease and bug issues with them. But if you really want to try it, these are certainly places you can order them from. Like Erin said, we typically will just take seedlings that we've started at home. You know, maybe we have started extras for our ground garden, throw them in the tower garden, or if you get seedlings from your local greenhouse, you tend to have better luck that way because they're already local to you. So those are just some options. And actually, I'm going to touch on this a bit later on clips versus net pots are also helpful when you're working with transplanted plants. So what can you grow in your tower garden? This is just kind of a good starter spot. So as you know, on towergarden.com, or maybe you don't, but if you go to towergarden.com, you can see long lists of all the plants you can grow. But this is kind of where I would say are some easy ideas to start with. You have your indoor list, your outdoor list, or both. And if you want, you can go ahead and take a picture of this slide, or you can check out more on towergarden.com. But I'm really thinking a lot of your greens and herbs work well inside. Your peas, cabbage, celery works great indoors, your spinach. And then as you're moving more to those flowering plants, they are a bit easier to do outdoors, but let me tell you, they work inside too. So moving on here, as we have talked about a few times with the plant guides. So this is something really cool that Tower Garden does offer. And I know a lot of people don't utilize this as much as they could. So I often even forget to go and look at my planting guides. So if you go to towergarden.com, you're going to go to the grow tab and you're going to be able to find all of these growing guides. So I'm going to stop, or I'm going to switch where my screen share is here to try to show this to you. Okay, so here we are on towergarden.com, and you go to the grow tab here, and then you can scroll down and you will find there's various growing guides right here. But if you actually scroll all the way to the bottom, you are going to see here under grow, you're going to see how to grow basil, how to grow cucumbers, how to grow chard, and the list goes on. And you can click on these and see all of those planting guides. And Linda asked, can you grow vine plants like watermelon and cantaloupe? Yes, you certainly can. And I would actually use the recommendations on how to grow squash, since melons and squash are similar. I would caution you of not growing melons and squash at the same time because they will cross-pollinate. But yes, you can do vining plants, typically best outdoors for those. So that is where you can find those growing guides. So now going back to our slides here, once you've kind of gotten through those growing guides and you know what you want to plant, you're going to start planting and organizing your tower garden. So Erin, do you want to go ahead and touch on this a bit?
Yes, I sure can. So planting your tower garden is it's very simple, like we've said, but placement is a big thing. So your smaller plants, such as your lettuce, your herbs, your microgreens, are going to go at the top. Then you're going to Go down to your middle section is like your medium-sized plants, your beans, peas, cabbage, peppers, kale, Swiss chard. At the bottom, you're going to stick with your larger plants, such as your tomatoes, your cucumbers, squash, melons, broccoli, just because they're bigger plants. I got birds talking to me here. um, but I would stick to, when you're going with those larger plants, just stick with one. You don't need 4 tomato plants at the bottom. One will get very large. Same with when it comes to cucumbers and squash. And this was the other thing that Lene had touched base on is I have the net pots. She has the clips circled here. The clips is another option where the roots kind of hang right down. It sits right on top of that end, and the clip just kind of sits right into that port right there. So you can
Yeah.
move your plants around a little bit easier too. I know, Lene, you use these, so I'll have you touch base on that.
Yeah, so this is something that I kind of learned here in the last year. So Tower Garden, they haven't had these forever, but these clips are really cool. So your nut pot or your Rockwell cube just sits right on that little clip there. And so your roots hang much easier. It's much easier to transplant seedlings in that way because you're not trying to get them down, the roots down through the net pot. And then I oftentimes move my plants around in my tower, depending on like, oh, I want to, take this plant out. I know I want to plant this one, but it would be better over here. I'm always moving plants. This allows you to do that without disturbing the root system, which is super important. So if you've ever tried to get one of those net pots out, it's really hard to do it, or otherwise you're pulling the plant out and disturbing the roots. So that's just a tip there, is to use those clips. They're really cheap. You can order them through the Tower Garden website. Highly recommend doing it. So with that, Erin, do you want to touch a little bit more on, if you are a brand new Tower Gardener, what should we grow, Erin?
Yeah. So as you're ordering your very first Tower Garden, or even your second one, and you just want to do a starter garden, in your kit that you get with your Tower Garden is a starter kit growing seeds and tray and all that. So your basics are going to be your lettuce, your kale, arugula, Swiss chard or rainbow chard, basil, chive, dill, cilantro, and parsley. When it comes to your herbs, you only need to grow one of each plant because they do grow in overabundance. But like lettuce and kale, do four of the lettuce or 4 of the kale, and arugula isn't a fan favorite here in our house, but it is so fun to add that spice to so many different salads. So these are like your basic seeds that will come with your Tower Garden, so you can get started growing the same day you get your Tower Garden, because they send you with some starter seeds to get going. And these are the easiest ones to get growing as well. You'll see sprouting from your lettuce like within a few days. And same with the kale. It's so much fun to see that growing right away. So back to you, Lene.
Yeah, and you may not get all of these seeds in with your starter kit, but for the most part, you're definitely going to have your lettuce, your kale, arugula, chard, and I think basil too. So a few of those herbs you might not get in there, but these are going to be the simplest to get growing with. And so with a lot of the stuff that we've shared tonight, Erin and I have actually put our knowledge into a PDF downloadable printable document for you. So we have created what's called a vertical growing guide and planner, and we have made it available to you to purchase through Etsy, and you can just download it and print it. It has all of the tips and tricks that we talked about tonight. It has places for you to log your seeds, log your plants, log your planting dates, write your journal, what worked, what didn't work, what do you want to try more of, your goals with your Tower Garden, all of those things. You guys, this thing is chock full of stuff. So this is just something additional to, if you want this information right in front of you, if you want to have a physical something that you can write in, go ahead, and this is actually a QR code, so you can go ahead and scan that right now from your screen, or you can go ahead, take a picture of this. The Etsy link is right there. Just something extra if you want to add it to your growing. So that's the growing guide. And if you want to see more knowledge and things that we share, tips and tricks, you can find both Erin and I on our Instagram pages, Whole Living Acres and Homestead on the Hill are our Instagram accounts. And, we're constantly sharing new things that we learn, sharing the things that we try. So this is the best place to pick our brains all the time. You can send us messages there and whatnot. So that's our Instagram pages. And that is pretty much what we have for you guys tonight. So I hope this was super beneficial. Again, we kind of covered that first bubble there, and we're going to be moving into more plant specific learning in the next 2 sessions on July 26th and August 9th. Zoom code will stay the same. Password is the same. Time is the same, 8 p.m. Central. So with that, Erin, do you have anything else that you want to pop in tonight? Otherwise, we'll open it up for Q&A.
No, I think we're good to go. And there's a couple questions down here in the chat. We can touch base on the Q&A. So
Perfect. All right, I will stop share and we can